if the metal detectors aren't working, they need to cavity search all the people going to this show.
Well, speaking of
What a segue.
Cavity
Such
searches.
a good segue.
speaking of cavity searches, Podluck brings us to more Johnny Depp and Amber Heard news because of course it is.
This time with cavity searches.
We got a bunch of stuff for Podluck, but this one says right here, it says Johnny Depp did a cavity search for coke on Amber, psychologist claims. Now, I had to make the wild leap that they meant cocaine and not Coca-Cola because I don't know where she would hide.
I don't know where you would put that.
I don't know where you hide the Coca-Cola.
That'd be a very small
vial.
Coca-Cola
Yeah.
bottle.
Maybe it's like a fireball shooter
really small.
full of
Yeah.
Coca-Cola. Hey, whatever you're into, man.
Judge.
Johnny, I am the most libertarian, but you do you. I don't care. Johnny Depp searched Amber Heard for cocaine once, an inspection that apparently went in and around her body, including private areas. At least according to a forensic psychologist who claims Amber made the allegations during her evaluation of the actress. Now, I want to draw some I almost didn't cover this today. And I thought it would be dishonest of us to not cover stuff from the other side of the other perspectives. Now, one thing that I seem to be finding to be a consistent piece for her side of the story is that her stuff is coming secondhand from like a psychologist who did an evaluation based on what she said.
Right.
Whereas the evidence that Johnny Depp provided was firsthand. It was from
Like
people who were
finger.
actually there. Well, I'm talking like this, like the bodyguard who says, "Look, that never happened. Look, this happened."
So there's the argument that any employee of theirs has a bias towards the person that they were employed by, but
Exactly.
you were
True.
literally on the scene. It's different than if you were her therapist who is just hearing her
secondhand
side of
about
the
it.
story
Yeah.
over and over again.
And what I'm finding
With no
here,
proof.
what I'm finding here is the hilariously subjective nature of psychology. I don't mean that in a rude way.
It's true.
But it's like, it says, Depp's psychologist believes that Heard suffers from histrionic personality
Like,
disorder.
if that's up to your judgment as a professional, I
But
get
if it-
that you have your education, but it is ultimately.
But you're hired by Depp to make an evaluation on her.
yeah.
So Depp's psychologist says that Heard suffers from borderline personality disorder and histrionic personality disorder, whereas Amber Heard's psychologist evaluating Amber Heard says she suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder and somebody who's been the victim of spousal abuse. Pick your expert. Pay your expert, get your diagnosis based on what you actually want, which
your
is like
Mick diagnosis.
Yeah,
Go through the
exactly.
drive-through.
yeah, it says a psychologist told jurors on Tuesday that Amber Heard is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder due to physical and sexual abuse at the hands of her ex-husband Johnny Depp. Again, now I have to ask this, like, how does she know that? Because somebody provided her video evidence of this happening? Is it based on secondhand allegations that Amber Heard is making? When were these allegations made? Was it pre-divorce, post-divorce, around the time of the trial, etc.?
I don't think that you should be able to make claims like I had a cavity search forced on me without being able to give some kind of evidence.
Yeah.
Simply telling your counselor about it is not good enough. I'm sorry.
Hughes was the first witness call, because this is one of those things that they talk about, would come up a lot in, like, I don't know if it was in Cassie Jay's movie, The Red Pill, where they would weaponize what women, the social workers would tell women what to tell psychologists to get custody of kids, which makes it inherently biased and inherently really evil.
That's very evil.
Like evil, because that means that say that woman who says her to say that has the best intentions, wants the kid to be okay, doesn't want the kid to end up with an abusive husband, but that means you're operating off the premise that you're being told the truth without any empirical evidence to prove it.
Exactly.
That scares me.
You're taking someone's word for it. And this is a classic case of he said, she said. Whereas if you have somebody like the bodyguard who was actually there, you're bringing in an outside voice who was a witness to what actually happened.
And there's even, like I said, and if you're being fair, you can even ask questions there because he was on Depp's payroll. You should ask questions. You should not take. One of the things this trial has taught me is that like an actor like Johnny Depp is very good at charming.
Of course,
and
he's an actor.
And I know that everything, like they've backed up everything that's happened to him, and what's happened to him is awful. But I'm always weary when something sounds too one-sided, to to me, like, it's very easy to paint that narrative of hero and villain, and because everyone's the hero of their own
It's
story.
funny because like the only context in which you've seen either of these is in a story where
Actually,
they
movies,
have to
yeah.
be one-dimensional.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
And
it
now
says,
it's a real situation where no one's completely right or wrong.
Yeah.
so it says when Mr. Depp was drunk or high, he threw her on the bed, ripped off her nightgown, and tried to have sex with her. Hughes testified. Hughes also referenced incidents in which Depp allegedly penetrated Heard with his fingers and on one occasion with a bottle. She
not
said
nice.
she said Depp showed particular jealousy towards James Franco, with whom he believed Heard was having an affair, having a relationship. These incidents often happened in a drug-fueled rage, and to be perfectly honest, that's very common.
Yep.
If he's using uppers, if he's using stimulants, if different people react to certain drugs a certain way, that can be an absolutely terrifying thing to experience. If you're, that's a classic case of like women who marry men that are abusive when they're drunk, right? He's the nicest guy in the world, but then when he drinks, he becomes a monster.
Yep.
So it's not like that is without precedent. But I'm saying that in the court of in what they're trying to prove here, you need to provide more than just flowery testimony that makes one side or the other look bad.
So
Right.
like with the allegation of the cavity search on her, was that because she actually was using, or was that also just kind of a delusion?
They don't talk that in here. I thought it would have been because at one point she was controlling his meds when he was going through detox. If you remember, that was one of the first examples where I pointed out where I said, look, they're making this too pro. There was a story from the Daily Mail where they talk about Amber Heard withheld
Right.
medication from
That's
Johnny
not fair.
Depp, and it was a complete misrepresentation because if you read into it, it was he was supposed to get his I don't know if he was taking Suboxone or methadone,
Right.
but you get that on scheduled doses, and to take it outside of that too early can be dangerous. But the problem is, as somebody who's been through that, when you're going through that initial part of withdrawal, it's not supposed to be enough to last so that you're comfortable when you take the next dose. You're supposed
survive.
to be coming down and uncomfortable again.
Right.
And so you will be begging because, like I said, addiction and withdrawal is something that I wouldn't, if I had a worst enemy, I wouldn't wish it on them.
Absolutely.
Like he would, of course, be begging for it. So the characterization that she withheld his meds when she was actually, assuming that what they're saying is true, was doing the right thing in
Right.
that respect. So I take
But
issue with
it's like,
that.
that sucks because the real things that she did against him
Yeah.
should be bad enough,
Yeah.
right?
It
you
shouldn't
don't
have
need
mattered.
to exaggerate.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's it. And that's where we have
Thereby,
problem.
like discrediting the whole thing. in some
It's where
people's eyes.
we have problem with the media because
Yeah.
they're pushed to sensationalize. They're pushed
Yeah.
to. There's even like there's a lot of people who are like covering the trial so heavily because it's getting them so many views. Can you blame them? I can't. Like you can't.
Well,
like,
I guess we're one of them.
Well, it's there's whole sections of YouTube that have dedicated a lot of time to covering it far more in depth
Right.
than we are, like much better
Yeah.
and with much more detail. We're just kind of, it's relevant right now. It will disappear after a time, but it shows you how easily how we get corrupted by whether it's the need for views, whether it's because you've invested into one side of the story or the other.
It's because these people aren't really real people to us.
It's very easy to turn them into caricatures.
Yeah.
Like she's an evil blonde temptress and he is Jack Sparrow on drugs.
Yeah, exactly. Basically.
Which sounds kind of cool.
Yeah,
to me.
it actually doesn't
But-
sound
that
too
would be a
bad.
fun movie.
Yes,
Yeah.
like
I would want to say too that if we can look at the media and see how they're kind of mischaracterizing Amber Heard, and you need to know then that you need to extrapolate that to everything you read from the media
Yep.
about everyone.
that's like Tim talks about
Right.
Gell-Mann amnesia effect all the time. Like if you read a news report about something you know very, very well, and you're like, holy crap,
This is so
everything
wrong.
about this is
Yeah.
wrong. They're
Yeah.
not, this isn't accurate. This isn't accurate. Why is it that you go down to the next article about underwater basket weaving
like,
and
oh,
you're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
that's fascinating. I didn't know that. Like you should assume that the article about underwater basket weaving is just as inaccurate as the article written about the stuff that you understand.
Yeah, what
But
you
their
can do-
hope is to just implant that idea in you,
True.
so you just forget, you memory hole it, and then that's just
Right.
And
an
what-
assumption
What
forever.
you can do is something like underwater basket weaving is take that idea and just like go to Google with it.
Yeah.
I really recommend people do that because I've been sharing statistics on Twitter in light of recent events, recent political events, and people are like, where does this come from? Where did you find this? I'm like, you can find it yourself. It's very
In the
easy
age
to
of
Google.
information,
Yeah.
we're the least curious we've ever been.
No, but
strange to me.
they don't overload. It's not through lack of information. It's through overload of
Maybe too
information.
much, yeah.
Here's the problem: is like what paragraph? Like the best information you're gonna find. Some people you have to go to a different search engine. You'll get different search results on
'cause your results are
DuckDuckGo.
curated.
Yeah.
You'll get different results on DuckDuckGo in Brave browser than you will on Google.
Right.
Okay. If you want to look at a good amount of them are ads. The first results you're going to
Right.
get are paid ads anyways. Until you get to page 3 or 4, you don't know if you're really getting into the meat of what could actually be the most important part of a topic. You're just getting, and that's like one of the, I have a friend who, we don't talk much anymore, but he's like, he didn't like the term fake news. He didn't like that concept. He's like, I can go to the AP and figure out what's going on in the world. I said, that's true, but you're still at the mercy, even if you're to give the entire team credit that they're not acting out of dishonesty. What they
might not
choose
know.
to cover
Right.
is editorializing.
Yes,
what they choose
exactly.
not to cover is editorializing. Where they place the information in the article is leading you in a certain direction.
Right.
Lie by omission and lie by structure.
yeah.
No, lie by structure, I think, is the worst. That's taking advantage of our lack of attention span.
Yeah.
Meaning that we'll place all of the pertinent information that discounts our theory in paragraph 7
Right.
because nobody makes it to paragraph 7.
Exactly.
And that was when I started to really realize that the media was evil in a way. And this trial is a perfect example of like, we kind of find it interesting. So we too fall into the narrative of like good and evil. She's clearly a bad person, but I'm still going to be hesitant to say that he was a good person.
The good
too.
guy. in
Right.
the situation.
It does take a lot of work to be well informed. And I think
Yes.
that most people are relatively lazy. They're just like, I'll just let the AP tell me what to think. And you cannot do that.
Well, I mean, that's to him that's not even laziness. That's just he just has a trust in an institution
You
that
should
we
never.
have fallen away
Never.
from.
Right.
I-
And
I-
until Shane Cashman actually woke me up to the dead internet theory
Yep.
and the fact that like Twitter is populated by 80%
Bunch of zombies.
bots.
Yep.
when you
I
look,
thought that the best way to get your news would be to just look at people talking about it and arguing about it.
curated like
Yeah. They'd have
you-
to be real people.
people like scoff at the idea of like, why would somebody create fake accounts? I'm like, do you understand every time you make a post on social media, do you look at how many likes it gets? That is the power of perceived influence, right? So do you know if all 250 people who liked your picture are real people? No, you don't care. You just looked at the number and you feel good about it. Now take something as important as public discourse, an opinion on something like domestic abuse. You can shape a lot and change a lot of minds through perceived influence, but through bots and
Right,
things like
exactly.
that, which is terrifying. Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.
Bye.